r/Askreddit Redditors who massively ducked up at work. What happened? Chemistry teacher here. On my first day of teaching I set my classroom on fire after some unfortunate incident involving sodium, water and a glass tank. The problem was that the glass tank was too big, so the hydrogen gas got to build up to a decent amount. Then suddenly kaboom. The glass tank exploded. There was shattered glass everywhere and hit the students, who were all wearing safety glasses. A column of water grew from the glass tank to the ceiling and the ceiling started to burn. After a few moments the fire died out and the fire alarm was loud and I had to make sure all of the students were okay, which they were. It ended up being one of my funniest classes to teach for many years. The students absolutely loved it. I was a bit of a nervous wreck for a few hours. The worst thing in hindsight is all of the comments saying things like you started your career with a bang and stuff like that. I was a nanny. A little 2-year-old I was watching fell down and hit the back of her head on the concrete. I rushed over to her, but she didn't move or blink, just laid on her back motionless. I tried to check for breathing and pulse and pretty much blanked on everything I'd ever learned in CPR/first aid training in my panic. She seriously looked dead. I screamed for help. The neighbors came running. I told them to call an ambulance. The police, fire department, ambulance showed up within minutes. She was rushed to the hospital and a million tests were run. Turns out she barely even had a bruise, no concussion, no seizure, no injury, nothing. The doctor said she probably just got scared and froze for just long enough for me to lose my shit. Her parents were charged $5,000 to tell them their child got surprised. Edit. Thank you to everyone for your kind and reassuring comments. And to those who let me know that fainting from involuntarily breath holding or stun responses is not uncommon. Honestly was expecting to get brigaded with "what a dumb cunt" comments. I work at a quick lube style shop, so I work around fairly new vehicles. I wish I could say it's all cheap shit, but no. Dude comes in one day for one of our services, so I'm doing everything under the hood of a BMW 7 Series. We fill the oil, ran the pressure check, closed the hood, because the newer BMWs have a digital oil readout on the screen in the dash. Dude leaves, comes back 5 hours later, hood is ducking smoking. Or, duck. We open the hood, and there's about 3 quarts of oil in the engine compartment. I didn't put the oil cap back on properly like I thought I did. Man, I was pissed. During the first week of my first job in animation, after I graduated I had to move a bunch of scene files from one server to another. The files were heavy, so I was told to just cut and paste them to make it faster. I accidentally put them in a wrong area and without thinking just deleted them. Went back to move the files again. They weren't there. I had forgotten I hadn't copied them. I lost 5 minutes of full animation. My longtime friend who recommended me for the job got in shit because his backups didn't catch the files and my direct supervisor worked for 21 days straight to help redo all the animation. The studio and everyone involved were way nicer to me about it than I expected. I kept my job and I bragged in donuts for the whole crew for a week after. But it was an awful start. Years ago I worked in an office and had a very cool boss who was the general manager. He and I were quite close and used to joke around all the time. I had been corresponding with a fairly important customer overseas about an issue they were having, and I needed information from her to move forward. I asked for info a few times, but she kept coming back with different details than what we needed. I sent an email to my boss saying something like, "I can't believe I asked the same simple question 3 times and this is what I get in reply." Except I didn't send that email to my boss. I sent it to the customer. I was in a panic when I realized what I had done. Went to my boss to let him know what happened, and he thought it was hilarious, but that I should write a brief apology to her for an outburst. Was dreading the reply the next morning, but to my astonishment our customer actually apologized to me for not paying attention. Felt like I got away with murder. The chef was angry that day. I was advised by my co-workers to do whatever it takes to get on his good side. I thought, I'll just try to avoid him. He was standing in the cooler taking inventory. Beside him were the 5-gallon containers of prepped food. I sneaked in and tried to quickly grab the ranch container, but in my haste, I nudged another. It was the French onion soup. all 5 gallons of it, on his pants and shoes. Yes, he was upset. The prep girl was upset. I had 10 minutes till lunch service started. I have no idea how I'm still alive. Was promoted to terminal manager, and I was a dumb 25-year-old idealist. We had an essential employee, a mechanic, who kept our fleet of trucks running. At least that was his job description. Less than a month on the job, it came to my attention that he was a working alcoholic and his work on our fleet was underwhelming. My boss told me to fire him once we had a new mechanic ready to come in. I told the old mechanic that he should probably start looking for new work if he couldn't do the job. Word got back to him through the pipeline that he was going to be fired. I went to a bar with my assistant manager after working 40 days straight and low, and behold, the mechanic showed up. Long story short, the mechanic attempted to abduct me with his adult son and dump my body in a frozen lake. The whole thing became a large dramatic bullshit event that put me in the hospital for a few hours and we both lost our jobs. A customer got the best of me. I worked upper level customer service for an Australian winery conglomerate that shall remain unnamed. They owned a bunch of exclusive brands, but only had a team of 6 or 7 customer service reps to service them all. 2 of us got paid $1 per hour more to be upper level customer service and take escalations, which is fancy talk for get shit on by the wealthy. A customer from their top brand made an online purchase, which we shipped immediately. He decided he was upset about that, as we should have read his mind and known he wanted it 3 months later. Anyway, he called me a retard, so I cancelled his order, his wine club membership, and deleted his customer profile. I was not let go due to them literally needing me to keep the department running, but my manager burst a blood vessel in his eye. I work at a jail. We have things called keeper parts to keep people away from each other, since they may have conflicts on the street or otherwise. I accidentally let these 2 guys go into the same room together. Guy 1 is ducking massive. Guy 2 is small and, allegedly, killed Guy 1's friend. Guy 2 doesn't know Guy 1, but Guy 1 knows who he is and what he, allegedly, did. So, they go into this room with about 30 other people, and after about 20 minutes Guy 1 casually walks over to Guy 2 and beats the ever-loving shit out of him. Easily cold killed him. Luckily we stopped it before it got worse. But I still ducked up massively. Not related, but Guy 1 was recently killed by his friend when they were drunk and his friend accidentally shot him in the head. Now Guy 1's friend is in jail for murder. Oh, I have ducked up so many times. Here's my 2 favorites. 1. Worked at an egg farm and was carrying 12 flats of eggs. Didn't see the pallet someone left in the walkway. Tripped on the pallet and hundreds of eggs go flying and splattered all over the floor. Meanwhile, I fell and dislocated my wrist and shoulder. 2. I was washing a dairy cow named Laverne before showing her at a county fair. She didn't like having her tail washed. She kicked the bucket of soapy water over onto my rubber boots and took off running. I grabbed both sides of her halter, but my boots were slick, and she basically ran around the washing area in circles with me hanging onto her head, while my tractionless boots acted like water ski ice. Of course this happened in front of crowds of people who started laughing. Finally I lost my grip and sat down in a puddle while Laverne ran toward a little boy holding a scone. He dropped the scone and ran, and Laverne ate his scone. I got night bar duty for that. Concessions at a movie theater. I was making popcorn, but I had learned that if we used a bit more seasoning and oil, the popcorn tasted insanely better. What I didn't know was the popcorn machine had broken earlier and wasn't stirring the popcorn anymore. So after I had made a new batch and no popcorn coming out, I decided to check on the machine and a hot glob of oil flew into my eye. Started cussing and screaming in front of a whole bunch of customers and got rushed into the back to wash my eye out.